There are often situations where you will need to take existing data and convert it into a different variable, or to take existing variables and combine them to form an additional variable. For example, you may want to compute the mean or standard deviation for a set of variables and enter those values as separate variables in the data file. Or you may need to recode data so that, for example, all values of 10 or greater equal just a 1, or all values less than 10 equal a 0. Your needs for transforming or recoding are going to vary depending on your data, but SPSS will allow you to transform, recode, merge, and change your data as needed. So you have multiple options and multiple reasons. You can change existing values into another value. You can combine multiple values or a range of values into a single score. You may need to take a string variable and change it into a nominal numeric equivalent. These are just examples of things you may need to do. It's not an exhaustive list. There are way too many things to list that you may need to do. Here's an example of why you may need to combine multiple values or a range of values into a single score. Let's say your data set is made up of class rank. You have freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. Freshmen are 1s, 2s. For sophomores, juniors are 3s, seniors are 4s. Well, we don't want them all as 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's say we need to know underclassmen and upperclassmen. You can have SPSS break it into just 2 sets of data, underclassmen and upperclassmen. You can recode. You can combine the freshman and sophomore into one group and call them underclassmen, and you can combine the juniors and seniors into another group and call them upperclassmen. So that's an example of recoding. You might change a string variable into a nominal numeric equivalent. So let's say we have the string variable for college major. We may want to be able to do some calculations later, so we're going to call math, we'll code them as 1s, English, we'll code them as 2s, science as 3s, and history as 4s. We have commands that we can tell SPSS to go in and grab anywhere it sees a math, code that as a 1. Anywhere it sees English, code it as a 2, and vice versa. So that's another example. There are 3 main types of recoding that we are going to look at. We can recode single values, ranges of values, and data into categories. Now, when you set up your recoding, there are 2 things you have to think about when you initially open up the recoding box. SPSS wants to know, do you want to recode into the same variable or recode into a new variable? Usually you want to just recode into a new variable. There's really not a reason to recode into the same variable. What happens if you recode into the same variable? Your new variable will just overwrite and replace whatever your original variable was. Your new values will become what you have in your data set. So your original data set will forever be changed and you don't have your original raw data anymore. So it's a good idea to go ahead and just always recode into a new variable and let SPSS create a brand new piece of data in your data set. That way you still have your original raw data and then you have your new variable as well. So you can always go back and look at whatever your original data had for you. So in the examples that I'm about to show you in SPSS, I'm using a data set that's titled Sample Dataset _ 2014. You can link to it in our Canvas page under the data sets. So if you want to grab that data set and open it so you can go through the same steps that I go through, that might make this easier for you to do later when you need to do it on your own. So you're going to need that data set and you are going to need SPSS. Okay, so let's look at an example of merging categories, and I'll use the one that I used previously. In the data set, we have the class ranks for high schools and colleges, and we have freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. They're divided by 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we want to merge them into underclassmen and upperclassmen. So underclassmen are going to be first and second year students. Upperclassmen will be third and fourth year students. So far they're coded as 1, 2, 3, and 4 in our data set. So if you have that data set open, you will look and see at rank. Let's find the rank column. Here is the rank column right here. You can see we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we have a few missing. In the variable view, if we look at rank, they don't have values on them, and we should have values. We should label them as 1 is freshman, 2 is sophomore, 3 junior, 4 is senior, but that's not what we're doing today, so we're not going to worry about that. Let's just recode so that we only have upperclassmen and lowerclassmen. So the steps to accomplish that is to use transform recode into different variables. So let's go to transform, which is up at the top. Come down to recode into different variable. We don't want to overwrite the variable we already have. Okay, we want to get a new variable. Sorry, I need to move my keyboard so I can reach it. So recode into different variable. So once that opens, then we're going to put the rank. If I can find it, there it is. We're going to put it over here into the box, and it's asking us, what do you want rank now to become? So our numeric variable, what's our input, what's the new output? So you need to put the name that you want it to become. So we're going to call it rank indicator. That's what we're going to call it, okay? So when you click change, that's telling SPSS that we're going to change rank to rank indicator. Rank indicator is going to be the new variable that represents our 2 new groups, upper and lower class, okay? Now, we're going to go and we're going to tell it what our old and new values are. So we're going to click right there at old and new values. First thing we want to do is deal with the missing values, those little dots you saw. So we're just going to let SPSS deal with those, and if they see system missing in the old values, we're just going to let them stay system missing. So we're going to add those to the old new box. Then come back up here to the old and new, and let's tell it if it sees a 1, which in the current set is a freshman, we want it to code to 1. We're going to call underclassmen 1. Even though it's already a 1, we're still going to call the underclassmen's 1, okay? So now we want it to code the 2, which are the sophomores. We also want them to be 1s, because remember, underclassmen are going to be 1s, and we're going to add those. So our 1s and our 2s are both going to be 1s. All right, so now our 3s, our juniors, are going to be 2s, because upperclassmen are 2s. And our 4s are going to become 2s. And we're going to add those. So here's our changes. Our 1 goes into the 1 group, our 2 goes into the 1 group, our 3 goes into the 2, and our 4 goes into the 2. So using 1s and 2s at the same time is kind of complicated. It would be easier if we had different numbers there, but just know those are different 1s and 2s. So we're going to hit continue. And that's it for that recode. You click OK, and you get your execute box, and you can close that. We don't need to save it. And if you go over, you can scroll down, and you have a new column of data that is just 1s and 2s that are your rank indicator. So anyone that was a freshman or a sophomore is now just a 1 underclassman. Anyone that was a junior or senior is now an upperclassman, which is 2. And you can go look at variable view, and you have a new variable, rank indicator. And you could go then and put your values on here. You could put 1, and your label would be underclassman. And let's add that. And 2 would be upper class. It's always a good idea to have this habit of putting those in, those labels. So now when we go to data view, we have our upper and underclassmen. And of course we can switch in between that view just by clicking the button at the top. So let's look at another example. Those are just some other ways to accomplish the same thing. So we can look at that later. But if you want to scroll through those, you can accomplish the exact same thing using 2 other techniques. So let's look at another example. If we want to take a continuous variable and turn it into maybe a discrete variable, that can sometimes be very useful. Okay, sometimes we have, such as in this case, we have commute times. Maybe it's not just one value, they're having it as 30 minutes or less, or more than 30 but less than 60, or more than 60 minutes. Okay, we can't really do a lot with that. We can't really, tally that up. So what we want to do is change that into a 1, 2, or 3, depending on what category they fall in. So in our data set, we have the variable commute time, which is the amount of time in minutes it takes the respondent to commute to campus. So we want to recode this into 3 ordinal groups, 1, 2, and 3. So our data is currently commute 30 minutes or less, commute more than 30 but less than 60, commute more than 60 or equal to 60. Okay, so those are our changes that we are going to make. So to do that, we're going to again go to transform, recode into different variables. So let's go to transform, recode into different variables. And let's see, we can take this out. We don't have to, but we can. And let's see, we want our commute value. So let's find our commute value. That's how commute time, there it is. Okay, so commute time, and what do we want to call it? Let's see what we want to call it. Let's see. In the output area, give it a new name. Let's call it commute length. Well, that's not much of a change, is it? All right, commute length. All right, so that's what we're going to call it. So now instead of commute time, we're going to have commute length. I would have gotten a little more creative than that, but that's just me. All right, so let's get rid of all of these. Since we've already done all this, I'm going to remove all the ones we've already done. Again, you don't have to, but it's just going to duplicate your work. So always deal with system missing first. And what value is going to change to what new value. So let's see, what do we have here? Since we're dealing with a range, we need to tell SPSS that that's what we're doing. So it says define the group 1. So we're going to look at a different area of our menu. We're going to look at, in the old value area, we're going to click on range, and we're going to go to lowest value through and enter 30. All right, so we're going to come down here to range, and we're going to say lowest through value being 30. So we're going to go up to 30, and we want to call that 1. All right, and then our next range is going to be group 3. We're going to jump to group 3, and the reason we're going to do that is because group 2 is in between the other 2 groups, and it'll just be easier to define it if we go ahead and define group 3, and you'll probably see why in just a minute. So group 3 is going to be range value through highest. The highest value is 60, so but range value through highest, which is 60, and we're going to call that group 3. So all other values then will be group 2. Okay, so all other values will be group 2. So then that'll catch all other values. Now we could have used range 30 through 60, or we would have had to have gone 31 through 59. So really we could have done it that way to get our group 2. That would have been fine. So whatever we want to do is fine, but I did it this way, so that'll catch it, but you could have done range the 2 other numbers, the endpoints, to catch it. So then we're going to click continue, and then we're going to click OK, and we need to close out our execute box. We don't need to save it, and we can go look to see if we've got our new variable. So there's our new commute variable, and we can look here and check for our new data down here at the end. Commute length 1, 2, and 3. Somewhere there's a 3, I'm sure. We really didn't get any 3s, I guess. There it is. There's somebody with a 3. Not very many people had the 3, though. Okay, so to check your work, go to Variable View and right-click on New Commute Length and do Descriptive Stats. It'll create a quick frequency table and summary stats of the new variable. So then you can make sure that the new variable has the same number of missing values as the original variables. All right, you can also then set value labels for the new variable before doing any analysis. That is always a good idea. So along with some practice problems for you to do some recoding, I'm also going to post these steps with screenshots. These PowerPoint slides that I have also have screenshots of the steps on how to complete this in SPSS, so you can go back through and maybe print them out or have them handy as you're working through. So we'll have some things for you to recode and practice. So happy recoding, and I will see you in class.